EyeofSol here. I have only one rule here. If it's animated, I'll comment on it. And I think it's time to chill out a little bit. What with insanely badass samurais one week, and then duodenum frying annoying birds the next week, I think it's time to just sit back, relax, and enjoy some weird invisible floaty things coming from the center of the earth. So I think you know what it's time for? Drugs!
Next door deliver to you. Knock knock, open up the...
This is Mushi-Shi, y'all. Mushi-Shi is a seinen anime series produced by Artland and adapted from the 1999 10-volume manga series of the same name written by Yuki Urushibara. The series aired on Fuji Television with a total of 46 episodes in 2 seasons, with the second season entitled Mushi-Shi Zokusho, as well as 2 OVAs and an anime film called Mushi-Shi Zokusho Suzu no Shizuku. Oh, it's all fun and games, I assure you. I'm as sober as a... Sorry, I'm way too high to think of a comparison. So, let's take a piercing gaze at Mushi-Shi. Somebody needs to slow this brain train down! The sheer originality of the premise is going to blow you off your seats like a well-timed carpet bombing. I'm being facetious, of course. The brain train hasn't even left the station yet. In Japan, a man known as Ginkgo is a wandering Mushi-Shi. What is a Mushi-Shi, you ask? Well, first, I should tell you of the Mushi. Mushi are ethereal beings living in their own plane of existence separate from humans, animals, and plants. Mushi are incredibly basic life forms, to the point that some believe Mushi are in fact the source of all life itself. These Mushi are invisible to most people, though some can see them, and even fewer of those people become Mushi-Shi, who are essentially Mushi experts. Mushi affect people in strange ways, often manifesting into supernatural afflictions and phenomena that range from small and insignificant to concerning the balance of the entire world. So that's all super interesting, but when you boil down the whole of the premise, what you're left with is this. Ginkgo wanders around Japan helping people with Mushi-related incidences. I really do enjoy plots like this where you can enjoy it on many levels. There's a deep mythology and pathos running through the veins of this series, but if you don't give a wispy fart about that, you can just enjoy watching a mysterious man travel around a beautiful landscape helping those in need. Hang on, that sounds familiar. Of course, it's my absolute favorite type of plot! Well, call me a big fucking Arapaima because I am hooked as fuck! Now let's move on to the characters. Much like Mononoke, that anime series that I reviewed last summer that you really should watch if you haven't watched it already because it's so likable and charming and there's so much great stuff in it and blah blah blah, this series also only has one character to talk about, and... Wait, didn't I just say this exact same thing like 2 weeks ago? Man, I am running out of material. So the not exactly protagonist is Ginkgo, a wandering Mushi-Shi who travels all around Japan, helping those affected by the Mushi's influence, while always keeping on the move, since he attracts Mushi wherever he goes. Ginkgo is a nice enough guy, which is great, but there's a fundamental flaw with his character that I'll talk about in more detail later. Beyond that, I really do get a warm fuzzy from watching Ginkgo ply his strange trade all throughout the land. He's got a very muted but caring spirit that belies the fact that he has token amnesia about everything except his name, which, without spoiling too much, may not even be his name at all. And what I like about that facet of his character is that he isn't constantly agonizing over it as if it's his only personality trait, which is sort of the default trait for those in his situation because it's the only way less than talented writers can make people like their characters. Got a bit off track there, sorry, but there really is a lot to like about Ginkgo. He's resourceful, intelligent, kind, and values all life equally, unlike some Mushi-Shi who use Mushi for their own benefit. In a way, Ginkgo is almost like a more reserved version of Wander. Look, you can barely tell the two apart! They're like twinsies! There's only a couple other recurring characters, like Adashino-sensei and Tanyu Karibusa, but they're not the focus here, so let's shuffle on ahead. As you probably guessed by now, Wanderer characters really are my favorite type of character, as long as they're done right. There's something about living free from walls, journeying the land, and probably being immortal that really appeals to me. I mean, I've definitely got the probably immortal part down, even though I really don't want to be. Sorry, this is no time to be a crying Catherine. It's time to look at the good things. Now I've got the traveler's itch. I want to run outside and play in the leaves. I want to feel the wind on my face and feel the ringworms burrowing in my feet, but, you know, I do have a review to finish first, and I'm not one to leave these things unfinished. I am a professional, after all. Ooh, my waffles are done. I'll be right back. Now let's start, as I mean to go on, by talking about the background designs. While I find the actual character designs beyond Ginkgo himself kind of boring and drab, I absolutely cream myself over the backgrounds. They have a soft, painted feel to them that gives off a real naturalistic, atmospheric vibe that I can groove on like a catchy song. And they capture the essence of Ginkgo's journey masterfully, with lush, verdant greens, silent, snowy mountains, turbulent seashores, and the beauteous majesty of the Komyaksuji running through the earth, giving life to all. I really like the backgrounds, is what I'm trying to say. Another thing I quite like about this series is the various types of Mushi and how they affect the world and people around them. In a way, you can see the Mushi as virus-like creatures, since most of what they do to living beings affects them in a negative way. But at the same time, Mushi are just living the only way they know how, inviting a nice addition of a moral gray area without it being too overbearing or in your face about it. Given the nature of the Mushi, it's inevitable that some aspects of creepiness would slink their way in through the shadows and place their sticky fingers all over everything. And I'm rather fond of that. And I guess that's a good segue into what this series does best, even better than its orgasm-inducing backgrounds, and that would be maintaining mood. The mood in this series always manages to stay grounded and focused, without flatlining at any time. The silliest it ever gets is some slightly exaggerated faces, which is a good way to insert some mild humor without losing its grip on the mood. The mood stays so consistent because the storytelling chops the series has are quite impressive, even though prolonged viewings do start to show a bit of repetition in the story progression. There isn't really an overarching narrative going on here, rather it's about a whole bunch of different stories tied together with a common theme, which again helps maintain the mood. I also enjoy how the series never really leans towards a bigger story and chooses to keep it simple and contained for the most part, much like Natsume Yujincho. It keeps things from spiraling into inane stories about destiny and whatnot, yet it always knows when to raise the stakes as well. In general, the storytelling is admirable, and I always love coming back to the stories any time of the day. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more. Sorry everybody, I'm just getting ready to go here. I'm yearning to breathe the fresh air. So let's just quickly get on with the bad things, okay? Alright, let's see here. Trail mix, first aid kit, emergency flares, emergency cell phone, condoms, anthrax, seashells, MLP fanfiction, water bottle, and yeah. Looks like I'm all ready to go. Have fun, everybody. See you later. Oh, right, I still have to finish this. Okay, well, here you go. Now, I'm glad to say I don't have any catastrophes to pick apart here, just some moderate quibbles that are quibbling all over me with their tiny quibbled feet. I mentioned extremely briefly before that Ginkgo is only the not exactly protagonist of the show, and that's true. Considering that Ginkgo himself is a rather interesting chap, it's kind of frustrating that this series seems to be about everybody but him. And let's face it, these one-time characters are never going to be as interesting as a one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people-eater. Sorry, I mean walking white-haired Mushi Master. Some might say that's just the nature of the story, and you're technically right, but you have to consider this old adage too. If this isn't the most interesting part of the story, why aren't you showing us that? There's big gaps in Ginkgo's story that just makes me wish there were more episodes focusing on him. Maybe this series doesn't dwell on his amnesia because it expects you to do it instead. And if that's the case, damn you, Artland! I also quickly pointed out that I find the character designs boring, and the repetitive nature of some of the stories becomes rather apparent during prolonged viewings, but I'd like to append something to that statement if I can. Would it be so hard to have a story not be about Mushi? I know that sounds odd considering the whole show is about Mushi, but what I mean is that Ginko always seems to know the solution to whatever problem he faces, because it's always Mushi related. So he never faces a challenge he can't explain or overcome. In a way, you could almost call this a restrained brick wall series, just not against any type of recurring antagonists. And I've had quite enough of brick wall series at this point, I'll tell you that. You need more proof of this statement? Well then, let's talk about my least favorite and favorite episode, and I'm sure you'll get the cut of my jib. So, it was a tough call between two episodes that really rubbed me the wrong way. I guess the runner-up would have to be Omoi Mi, since creating immortal people should be a much bigger deal than it is there. But the grand prize winner would have to be Odoro no Michi. In this double-length OVA, Ginko is sent at the behest of Tanyu to investigate the Odoro no Michi, aka the Path of Thorns, whereupon he meets another Mushi-Shi named Kumado Minai, the current head of a storied family of Mushi-Shis. As Ginko and Kumado venture into the Odoro no Michi in search of a dangerous Mushi, Ginko slowly discovers the terrible nature of Kumado's upbringing. Now I had really high hopes for this story because it sounded good in theory, but unfortunately this one tiptoes a little too close to the whole destiny thing the series tries really hard to avoid most of the time, as well as letting off a stank of brick walls just a little too much for my liking. Plus, I don't care much for Kumado, and the fact that this story is stretched out over 40 minutes really caramelizes my clitoris. Maybe others will like it more than me, but personally, I just shake my head at it in disappointment. Now, there was no contest for a victor here. Without any hesitation, I can definitely say that my favorite episode is Kusa no Shitone. And I guess pretty serious spoilers here, so just go stick your head in a bucket if you don't want to hear what I'm about to say. In this episode, a young Ginko has been handed off from Mushi-Shi to Mushi-Shi, who don't keep him for long due to his nature of attracting Mushi. After passing out in a mountain forest, Ginko is taken in by another Mushi-Shi named Suguro, and the two wait for a new mountain lord to appear to replace the current dying one. Now, I adore this episode, not just because we get some much needed backstory on Ginko and some of his exploits during his younger years, but also it shows the only time that Ginko fucks up really bad and doesn't know what to do. Ginko just seems the most human in this episode, and luckily, it doesn't end all twee and saccharine like you might expect. I won't spoil more than necessary, but this is definitely an artful episode, and I heartily recommend you give it a watch. Mushi-Shi is a very solid outing that unfortunately stumbles every so often on a few glaring roadblocks. While undeniably I would hang this show's background art on my walls for how impressive it is, and though I love Ginko himself, there's just a few big bumps on the beautiful path to greatness. I give Mushi-Shi
eyes out of 5.
So, Mushi-Shi, is it watchable? You better believe it is. It's like a mashup of Samurai Jack and Natsume Yujincho's art style that I honestly just can't get enough of. Is it enjoyable? Well, if you don't care about the brick walls you can see forming off in the distance, and if you don't mind some repetition in the plots, then yeah, absolutely, it's very enjoyable. Is it memorable? That's hard to say. I mean, the show did return after 8 years for a second season, so obviously people wanted more, but in a general sense, it's hard to say. So I won't say. Nope, I am hitching up my backpack and I am bidding y'all farewell. The open road calls me, so I must go on like the semi-immortal wanderer that I am. Not sure when I'll be back, but I know I'm gonna have fun. See you on the road, folks. Want to stay up to date with all the latest EyeofSol news? You can follow me on Twitter as well as on Facebook at twitter.com/EyeofSol299 and facebook.com/EyeofSol. I update them every day, so if you want to check out news on the show as well as updates, just follow the links here. Hey everybody, thanks for watching my review of Mushi-Shi. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, I would appreciate a like and a share of this review, as well as a subscription to my channel, because that always makes me smile. If you want to check out the previous Sol episodes, you can see the annotations playing on the video right now. Or if you want to check out my various social media sites, you can see my links to my Twitter page and my Facebook fan page, as well as my Patreon account there on the screen for you, as well as in the description. If you have an idea for an animated series or movie you want me to comment on, you can leave me a message in the YouTube comments on any one of my social media sites, or just let me know in any way you can think of to let me know what you want to see, and I will add it to my list. Okay? Thanks again for watching everybody, and I will see you next week for my 2-year anniversary!